Imagine you just purchased your first property that you plan to use as an Airbnb, only to find out that the HOA community you just bought in is planning to severely restrict or outright ban vacation rentals. This is the harsh reality that you face when you're purchasing a home in an HOA community. It almost happened to us, and fortunately, we were able to escape this potential disaster. HOA communities are subject to changing their short-term rental policies. That's why in this video, I'm going to discuss the important things that you need to consider before you purchase an Airbnb in an HOA community. And make sure you stick around to the end, because I'm going to give you some practical tips and personal experience for how you can deal with HOA changes in the community. So the first thing that you need to realize is you have to understand what the HOA rules and regulations are for the specific HOA community you're purchasing in. Here in the Pocono Mountains, there are so many different communities within the 4 major counties, and within the counties, there's so many different townships. So you have to understand not only what the HOA rules and regulations are, but you have to understand the township regulations as well. There are some communities that have outright banned short-term rentals in the Poconos, just as well as anywhere else in the U.S. Entire communities say you cannot rent your property on a short-term basis, which is less than 30 nights. So you have to understand, when you're purchasing a property in an HOA, make sure you read through the documents. Make sure you read through the HOA documents to see where they stand on short-term rentals. That's going to severely affect where you decide to buy. The second thing you need to realize and understand before buying in an HOA is that they have boards of directors, and they are humans, and sometimes they have agendas. Within each HOA, there is an elected board of directors by the members of the HOA. Again, this is different throughout the entire country. In the Poconos, I believe that in most of the HOA communities, they're elected every year or 2 years. So the purpose of the board of directors is to uphold the bylaws and to look out for the betterment of the community. They serve a very important purpose. I will say that. But sometimes they have their own agendas, and especially in my community right now. So we purchased in Talmenting Trails in 2021. There weren't many issues that we knew of when we purchased, but we did know that short-term rentals were a pretty hot topic. So there were consistent meetings trying to flush out things and working together with the long-term residents. And the board of directors at that time seemed to be very on board with, how do we figure this out? How do we make sure that everyone is represented in these discussions? And now, fast forward to 2024, the board of directors, almost all of them, are anti-short-term rentals. And they are rerunning for the next election based on severely limiting or outright banning short-term rentals. We just had a special meeting that was focusing on this. So it can change at any time. Just from when we bought in 2021 to where we're at now in 2024, the board of directors has changed, and a lot of them are running on anti-short-term rental platforms. So you have to consider that. You have to understand that depending on who is elected to these board of directors, things can change. Buying a short-term rental can seem very daunting, especially here in the Poconos. That's why you actually need to work with someone who knows the process and can help you find the right communities to buy in. So if you are looking to buy up here in the Poconos, just click the link below, schedule an appointment with me. We'd love to chat with you. The third thing that you need to consider is the financial considerations. When you're purchasing a property in an HOA community, you have to pay different fees than if you are purchasing it not in an HOA community. The community that we decided to purchase in, Talmenting Trails, here in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, we have to pay a yearly $250 fee. In addition to that, we have to pay a fee to the township. The fee to the township, I think there's a one-time fee when you first do it and when you first get started. It's about $500. But additionally, within the HOA fees, we also have to pay our yearly dues as well. Our yearly dues are, fortunately, they're very low. I think it's like $465 for the year. So that's in addition to the short-term rental fee. And then there are other fees that come along as well. Since we use our property a lot personally for our family, we have to pay a golf cart fee, right? So we have to register our golf cart every year. for $40. And then if there's anything that we want to rent down by the beaches and by the pool, like paddle boats or canoes, you have to pay an additional fee for that as well. And then there's the fines to consider. Weird thing about our community is that only owners can use the fire pits. Renters cannot use the fire pits. If a renter gets caught using the fire pits, we can be fined up to $500. There is no fireworks allowed in this community as well. So if we have guests that sell fireworks, we get a fine for $500 or $1,000, right? These are all fees that you need to consider when you're buying in an HOA because they affect your bottom line. The next thing that you really have to understand, and I can't stress this enough, is market research. You have to do research before you decide to buy a property in a certain area. Again, 4 counties in the Poconos. I don't know how many townships. I don't know how many there's more townships than counties, right? And then there's way more communities than townships. Each one has different rules and regulations. Every community is different, unfortunately, because there is a possibility to adopt one set of rules, one set of regulations for the entire area, but they didn't do that. So each community has different rules and regulations, and the market research is extremely important. Right now, I tell people, don't even consider looking at any properties in Tobiana Township. Within that township, there are multiple different communities. And the reason why is because they just enacted a 12% cap on short-term rentals. 12%. There were about 630 properties in that entire township that were considered short-term rentals. And I heard there was about 200 or 250 more in the queue waiting to get a license. And then the 12% cap was enacted. So who knows? There could be 20, 30, 50 properties that now don't get a short-term rental license because of this cap. So these people who purchased the property with the intent to use it as a short-term rental can now not do so. So there are different areas that I would say to stay away from. And there are communities that do it really well. Arrowhead Lake, Big Bass Lake, they do it really well. They have figured it out, it seems. But make sure that you're doing your research. Anywhere that you're looking in the entire U.S., every HOA is going to have different rules and regulations. Do your research before purchasing. Last but not least is your exit strategy. What is your exit strategy in case it doesn't work out? This is not talked about often enough. I can even admit myself that I wasn't really considering an exit strategy when I purchased because we had dual reasons for it. Yes, we wanted to use it as a short-term rental, but we also wanted to use it as a vacation home. But we need the short-term rental income in order to keep it as a vacation home. Fortunately enough, we purchased this property that I'm in right now at a time where the values weren't as high as they are right now. So we have an opportunity that if it doesn't work out and everything goes to crap, we can sell this property. We'll make a profit from that too. So it'll work out. But here's the thing. If you're in a community and they outright ban short-term rentals, and short-term rentals bring in a significant amount of revenue for that community, everyone's going to decide to sell at the same time. And you know what happens when everyone decides to sell at the same time? The values plummet. And that means that you need to figure out what your exit strategy is. Can you turn the property into a long-term rental? There are a lot of different places in the U.S. where you can purchase as a short-term rental, and if it doesn't work out, you can turn it into a long-term rental. Unfortunately, where I'm at in the Poconos, you cannot do that. You will not get what you need to get on a monthly basis for a long-term rental, like 98% of the time. Obviously, there's always cases where you potentially could, depending on what your mortgage payment is. But for me, if we got to get out of the short-term rental business with this house specifically, we have to sell it. That's almost our only exit strategy. There are always creative options that you can do with other people. Maybe you can have someone come in and take over the management for it or what have you. But for you, when you're deciding to purchase, you have to consider what your exit strategies are. So if you stayed this far, here is the bonus. Here are some of the tips that I can offer you, some of the personal experiences that I can offer you that you can stay in good communication and in good business standing with the communities. You have to understand that opening up dialogue between yourself as a short-term rental and the community is extremely important. We are fortunate that there are multiple different Facebook groups that we can stay in contact with each other as long-term owners, as short-term rental owners as well. So that's one of the things. Stay in good community with your community. Don't be a slumlord with your property. Try and show up to the board of director meetings. Try and show up to any other kind of events that are happening in the community. I do understand it's difficult, especially if you live multiple states away or if you live 4 or 5 hours away from your property. But you need to stay in good standing within the community. You also have to realize that people live in these communities long term. I know everywhere is different. The Poconos is a vacation destination, so most communities are used as second homes or vacation properties, right? But there are long-term tenants, and especially your neighbors. Like if you live next door to neighbors that are long-term people who live in the community, you have to be a good neighbor to them. That's important. Take care of the outside of your property. Try and screen the guests as they rent your property as well, because you want to not be known as that problem house. And my last tip is join an advocacy group. We are extremely fortunate in the Poconos to have the Poconos Vacation Rental Owner Association. This was an advocacy group that was started about a year ago, and they are fighting for the rights of short-term rental owners while giving valuable information to these communities to stay in unison so we're not constantly fighting, because the fighting amongst long-term tenants, board of directors, HOAs, and the townships against the short-term rental owners is not going to get you anywhere. I can't lie to you and say that it's easy to own a short-term rental in an HOA community. Again, as you have already heard, there's so many different things, so many different hurdles that you have to overcome. But I do believe that if you do your research ahead of time, you will set yourself up for success. But understand that HOAs can make decisions that are contrary to what you feel and you believe. So it is a risk. Real estate investing in general is a risk, especially short-term rental investing in an HOA. I'm going to continue to put out valuable content just like this. So if you want to learn more about what it's like investing in the Poconos, you can always reach out. If you are looking to invest anywhere in the U.S., whether short-term or long-term, and you need a great agent to work with, just reach out. I can connect you with a local expert. Look forward to speaking with you soon. Have a great day.